My name is Talia Jenkins, and I'm 32 years old. When the lawyer told me I had inherited $52 million from a great aunt I'd never even met, the first thing I did was call my sister Keisha to share the news. But before I could say a word, she cut me off. Talia, I don't have time for your drama. Marcus needs new golf clubs, and we're trying to save for the baby's nursery renovation. Whatever crisis you're having, handle it yourself. She hung up. That's when I decided to test them. I decided to pretend I was still the broke little sister they'd always taken advantage of, and what they did next became their worst nightmare. Before I tell you how this test destroyed my family and rebuilt my life, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. And if you've ever been the family ATM that nobody appreciates, hit that like and subscribe button because you're going to want to see what happens next. The story really started 4 weeks ago. I was sitting in my tiny studio apartment in College Park, the one with the leaky ceiling and the neighbors who fought every single night. I'd just finished my second shift, my feet aching from 12 hours of standing at the restaurant where I worked as a server. My phone was charging on the counter. The screen cracked from when I'd dropped it last month. I couldn't afford to fix it. I was eating instant ramen, the third night in a row, when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. I was so tired, but something made me pick up. Hello? Is this Miss Talia Jenkins? The voice was professional, crisp, with that careful pronunciation that comes from expensive education. Yes, this is she, I said, my guard up. Telemarketers always called during dinner. Miss Jenkins, my name is Thomas Whitmore. I'm an attorney with Whitmore, Blackwell & Associates in Buckhead. I'm calling regarding the estate of Mrs. Henrietta Dubois. I had no idea who that was. I'm sorry. I think you have the wrong person. I don't know anyone by that name. Mrs. Dubois was your father's aunt, Miss Jenkins. Your great-aunt, on your father's side. She passed away 3 months ago, and you've been named as the sole beneficiary of her estate. My father. I hadn't seen my father since I was 6 years old. He'd left one morning and never came back. My mother, Loretta, had raised me and my sister Keisha alone, working double shifts as a nurse. She'd remarried when I was 10 to a man named Robert, but he'd treated me like an inconvenience, like I was a reminder of her past mistakes. I don't understand, I said slowly. I never knew my father had family. I never met this woman. Mrs. Dubois was quite elderly, Miss Jenkins. She had no children of her own. After your father's passing 5 years ago, she spent considerable time and resources locating you. She wanted to ensure her estate went to family. 5 years ago. My father had been dead for 5 years, and nobody had told me. I felt a strange emptiness, not grief, just a hollow acknowledgement of something that was already gone. I need you to come to my office, Miss Jenkins, Mr. Whitmore continued. There are documents you need to sign, and we need to discuss the specifics of the inheritance. Are you available tomorrow at 10? I looked around my tiny studio, at the stack of bills on the counter, at the eviction warning I'd received yesterday, bright pink, and impossible to ignore. Yes, I said. I'll be there. I wrote down the address in Buckhead. After I hung up, I just sat there, the ramen getting cold in front of me. Inheritance. The word felt foreign. In my family, there was no inheritance. There was only debt, struggle, and the constant hustle to keep your head above water. The next morning, I put on the only professional outfit I owned, a black skirt suit I'd bought from Goodwill 3 years ago for a job interview. It was slightly too big, the shoulders hung wrong, but it was clean. I took the bus to Buckhead, watching the city transform around me. The neighborhoods got nicer, the cars got newer. The people on the sidewalks walked with that particular confidence that comes from never worrying about money. The law office was on the 23rd floor of a gleaming glass tower. The lobby had marble floors and a receptionist who looked like she belonged in a magazine. I felt completely out of place. Miss Jenkins? A tall black man in an immaculate navy suit approached me. He was maybe 50, with silver at his temples and the bearing of someone who commanded respect without asking for it. I'm Thomas Whitmore. Thank you for coming. He led me to a conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the entire city. On the table was a stack of documents and a leather portfolio. Please sit, he said, gesturing to a chair. I know this must be overwhelming, Miss Jenkins, so I'll be direct. Your great-aunt, Henrietta Dubois, was a very wealthy woman. She never married, never had children. She lived modestly, invested wisely, and accumulated significant assets over her lifetime. He opened the portfolio and slid a document across to me. This is the summary of her estate. After all taxes, fees, and final expenses have been settled, you are inheriting approximately $52 million. The words didn't make sense. I heard them, but they bounced off my brain like they were in a foreign language. $52 million. I'm sorry, what? I whispered. Mr. Whitmore's expression was kind but professional. $52 million, Miss Jenkins. The estate includes several properties, a substantial investment portfolio, and liquid assets. It's all detailed here. He pushed forward more documents. Mrs. Dubois was very specific in her will. She wanted everything to go to you. She felt tremendous regret that she never got to know you, that the family had been fractured. This was her way of trying to make amends. I stared at the numbers on the page. They looked like phone numbers, like zip codes, like anything except money that could be mine. Why me? I asked. My voice sounded small. Why not my sister? Why not my mother? You were the only one she could locate through your father's lineage, Mr. Whitmore explained. Your sister Keisha is your half-sister, correct? Different father? Mrs. Dubois' will specifies direct descendants of her nephew, which is you. I thought about Keisha. Perfect Keisha, with her perfect husband Marcus, and her perfect house in East Point. Keisha, who had always been Mom's favorite, who had always reminded me that she was Robert's real daughter, his blood. What do I need to do? I asked. Over the next 2 hours, Mr. Whitmore walked me through everything. Trusts, accounts, properties, investments. My head was spinning, but one thing was crystal clear. As of that moment, I was a multimillionaire, and nobody knew. When I left the law office, I didn't feel joy. I didn't feel excitement. I felt a strange, cold clarity. I thought about the last conversation I'd had with my sister. 3 weeks ago, I had called her crying. The restaurant had cut my hours, and I couldn't make rent. I'd asked if I could borrow $400 just until my next paycheck. Talia, I'm not a bank, she'd snapped. You need to learn to manage your money. Marcus and I have real responsibilities. We can't keep bailing you out every time you mess up. I hadn't messed up. I'd gotten sick, missed 3 days of work, and lost the shifts. But explaining that to Keisha was pointless. In her mind, I was the family screw-up, the one who couldn't get it together. I thought about my mother, Loretta. 6 months ago, her car had broken down. She'd needed $800 for repairs. Keisha had been in Jamaica with Marcus on vacation. I'd been the one to empty my savings account, the one I'd been building for 3 years, to fix her car. When Keisha got back, Mom had thrown her a welcome home party. Nobody had thanked me for the car. I'd never gotten that money back. Now, sitting in my beat-up 2008 Honda Accord in the parking garage of the most expensive building I'd ever been inside, I pulled out my phone. I looked at my bank account. The wire transfer wouldn't clear for another 48 hours, but Mr. Whitmore had showed me the confirmation. It was real. $52 million. Real. I could pay off my debt, buy a house, never worry about money again. But first, I needed to know something. I needed to know if anyone in my family would help me if they thought I had nothing. I needed to know if any of them actually loved me, or if I was just the convenient one, the one who always said yes. I sent a text to the family group chat. Just a simple message. Family dinner at Mom's Sunday? I need to talk to everyone about something important. Within minutes, the replies came. Keisha. Fine, but make it quick. Marcus has a tea time at 4. Mom. I'll make pot roast. Don't be late, Talia. Robert. No response. He never responded to anything I sent. I sat there, staring at their messages. The test was set. Sunday dinner. I was going to walk into that house and tell them I was about to be homeless. I was going to ask for help. Real help. The kind of help I'd given them over and over. And I was going to see who would step up. I already knew, deep in my bones, what the answer would be. But I needed to see it. I needed proof. The old Talia would have made excuses for them. The new Talia, the one with $52 million in her future, needed the truth. Sunday came fast. I parked down the street from my mother's house in East Atlanta, the one I'd helped pay the mortgage on 3 times when she'd fallen behind, the one she shared with Robert, who barely acknowledged my existence. I could hear the sound of laughter through the windows, the football game blasting from the new television. I knew that television. I'd put it on my credit card last Christmas because Mom had said she was embarrassed that theirs was so old when Keisha and Marcus came over. I walked up to the door, my heart pounding. I was wearing my work uniform, deliberately. I wanted to look tired, desperate, at the end of my rope. Because that's what this version of me was. The broke Talia, the failure Talia. I opened the door without knocking. I never knocked. The smell hit me immediately, rich and warm. Pot roast, collard greens, cornbread. My mother's famous Sunday dinner. Keisha was already at the table, looking perfect as always. Her hair was freshly done, pressed and curled. She was wearing designer jeans and a silk blouse that probably cost more than my rent. Marcus sat beside her, scrolling through his phone. He was wearing a polo shirt with a country club logo. My mother was in the kitchen, pulling the roast from the oven. Robert sat in his recliner, eyes glued to the game. Nobody looked up when I came in. "Hey," I said softly. "Oh, Talia, good, you're here," my mother said, not turning around. "Come help me get the food on the table. And hurry up, the game's almost at halftime." Not hello, not how are you, just orders. I walked into the kitchen and grabbed the bowl of greens. As I carried it to the table, Keisha finally looked up. "You look terrible," she said, wrinkling her nose. "Have you been sleeping? Your eyes are all puffy." "I've been working," I said quietly. "Both jobs." Marcus snorted, not looking up from his phone. "Maybe if you'd gone to college like Keisha, you wouldn't have to work 2 jobs. I'd tried to go to college. I'd gotten a scholarship to Georgia State. But in my first semester, my mother had gotten sick, missed 2 months of work, and lost her income. I'd had to drop out to help pay the bills. Keisha had gone to Spelman, fully funded by Robert. "Sit down, everyone," my mother announced, bringing the pot roast to the table. "Robert, turn that TV down." We all sat. The prayer was quick. And then the eating started. I watched them. Watched Keisha pile her plate high. Watched Marcus take the biggest piece of meat. Watched my mother fuss over Robert, making sure he had enough gravy. Nobody asked me if I wanted the last roll. I cleared my throat. "I need to talk to you all about something." Keisha groaned. "Talia, can it wait? The game's on." "It's important," I said, and I let my voice crack. "Just a little. Just enough." My mother sighed, that long, suffering sigh that said I was being dramatic again. "What is it?" I took a breath. This was it. The test. "I got let go from the restaurant." I lied. The words felt like ash. "They're cutting staff. And my other job, at the call center, they're cutting my hours down to part-time." Silence. But it wasn't concerned silence. It was annoyed silence. "And?" Keisha said, taking a bite of cornbread. "And I can't pay my rent," I continued, feeling my hands start to shake. It wasn't an act anymore. The emotion was real, even if the circumstances were fake. "I got an eviction notice. I have 2 weeks to come up with $3,000 or I'm out on the street." The silence stretched. I looked at my mother. She was cutting her meat, not looking at me. I looked at Keisha. She was texting. I looked at Marcus. He was smirking. Finally, my mother spoke. "Talia, we've talked about this. You need to be more responsible with money." My hands clenched under the table. "I am responsible, Mama. I work 70 hours a week. I don't go out. I don't buy anything. I just need help this one time." "One time?" Keisha's voice was sharp. She put her phone down and looked at me with something close to disgust. "You always need help, Talia. It's always something with you. First it's your car, then it's your phone. Now it's rent. When are you going to stand on your own 2 feet?" The injustice of it, the sheer wrongness, took my breath away. But I pressed on. "Keisha, please. I just need $3,000. I'll pay you back, I swear. I'll get another job. I'll do anything." She laughed. Actually, laughed. It was a sharp, ugly sound. $3,000? Do you know how expensive diapers are? Do you know how much the nursery renovation is costing? Marcus and I are about to have a baby, Talia. We have real expenses. Adult expenses. I turned to my mother. "Mama, please. You know I've always helped you. When your car broke down, I gave you everything I had." My mother's face went hard. She put down her fork with a sharp clink. "And I appreciate that, Talia. But that was your choice. Nobody forced you. And now you're throwing it in my face like I owe you something." I felt like I'd been slapped. I'm not throwing anything in anyone's face. I just need help." Robert, who hadn't said a word the entire time, finally spoke. His voice was cold, bored. "Maybe if you'd made better choices, you wouldn't be in this situation. Maybe if you'd finished school instead of dropping out." "I dropped out to help pay bills when Mama was sick," I said, my voice rising. "That was your choice," Robert said again. "Nobody asked you to do that. You made that bed, now lie in it." The room spun. I looked around the table at these people. My family. The people I'd sacrificed everything for. And not one of them was going to help me. Keisha picked up her phone again. "Look, Talia, I don't know what to tell you. We can't just give you $3,000. We're not made of money." She stood up, Marcus following her lead. "We have to go. Marcus has that tea time. Good luck with the rent thing. I'm sure you'll figure it out. You always do." They left, just walked out. Didn't even finish their food. My mother started clearing the table, her face set in that expression she got when she didn't want to deal with something. "Mama," I whispered. She didn't look at me. "Talia, I can't help you. I'm on a fixed income. Robert and I are barely making it ourselves." "But the house payment?" I started. "That was different," she cut me off. "That was family helping family. This is you needing to learn responsibility." The words hung in the air like poison. She walked past me into the kitchen. I sat there alone at the table, the food growing cold. Robert had already turned the TV back up. He hadn't looked at me once. I stood up slowly. I walked out of that house. Nobody said goodbye. Nobody asked me to stay. I got in my car and I sat there in the dark. The test was complete, and they had failed. Spectacularly. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just felt a cold, clear, absolute certainty settle over me. Everything I had suspected, everything I had feared, was true. I was not their daughter. I was not their sister. I was their emergency fund, their safety net, their backup plan. And the moment I needed them, they had turned their backs. I pulled out my phone. I scrolled through my contacts until I found the one person who had never asked me for anything. Mr. Raymond. He lived 3 blocks away in a small duplex. He was 71 years old, a retired postal worker who had been my father's best friend. After my father left, Mr. Raymond had been the one who checked on me and my mom. He'd helped me with my homework. He'd taught me to change a tire. He'd shown up to my high school graduation when nobody else from my father's side of the family did. When I'd gotten older and started working, I'd helped him out here and there, brought him groceries, helped him fix his roof, drove him to doctor's appointments when he needed it. But he'd never asked for money, never asked for anything he couldn't repay. I pressed call. He answered on the second ring. "Talia? That you, baby girl?" "Hey, Mr. Raymond," I said, and my voice finally cracked. "You all right? You sound upset." "Can I come over?" I asked. I need to talk to somebody." "Door's always open for you, child. Come on by." I drove to his duplex, parked in front. The lights were on inside, warm and welcoming. I knocked. He opened the door, and the concern on his face when he saw me almost broke me. Come in," he said, ushering me inside. "Sit down. You want some tea? I just made a pot." His living room was small but immaculately clean. Photos covered the walls, including several of me at various ages. My high school graduation, me at 16 with my first car, me at 8 with a missing front tooth. I sat on his couch, and everything just poured out. I told him about going to my mother's house, about asking for help, about Keisha's laughter and Marcus's smirk and my mother's coldness. I didn't tell him about the inheritance. I couldn't. Not yet. But I told him about the eviction notice, about feeling completely and utterly alone. Mr. Raymond listened. He didn't interrupt. He just let me talk. When I finally finished, my throat raw, he was quiet for a long moment. Then he stood up, walked to his bedroom, and came back with an envelope. "This is for you," he said, holding it out. I looked at the envelope. It was one of those greeting card envelopes, slightly worn. "Mr. Raymond, I didn't come here to—" "I know you didn't," he said, pressing it into my hand. "But I want you to have it. Open it." I opened the envelope. Inside was $3,200 bills. $3,200. I stared at it. "Mr. Raymond, no. I can't take this. This is my savings," he finished. "I've been putting a little aside each month. Was saving up to fix my car, but the car can wait. You need it more." I looked at him, this elderly man on a fixed income, offering me his savings, the same amount I'd asked my family for, the family who had more than enough. "I can't take this," I whispered, trying to hand it back. He closed my hands around the money. "Yes, you can, and you will, because that's what family does, Talia. Real family. Not the blood kind, but the kind that shows up, the kind that cares." I started crying then. Not delicate tears, but big, ugly, gasping sobs. All the pain, all the rejection, all the years of being the family doormat. It all came pouring out. Mr. Raymond just pulled me into a hug and let me cry. "You're worth more than they see, baby girl," he said quietly. "You always have been. Your daddy, before he got sick, before he left, he used to tell me you were going to do something special. He saw it in you, and I see it too." We sat there for a long time. When I finally pulled away, my face wet and puffy, I looked at that money in my hands. $3,200. Everything he had. "I'm not taking this," I said, my voice steady now. "But thank you. Thank you for offering. Thank you for showing me what real love looks like." He started to protest, but I stood up, placing the money on his coffee table. "I have a plan, Mr. Raymond. A good plan. But I needed to see this. I needed to know that I wasn't crazy. That they are wrong, not me." I left his house with something I hadn't had when I walked in. Clarity, purpose, rage, the cold, focused kind. I got in my car and I drove. Not home. Not to my mother's. I drove to a Starbucks with Wi-Fi and I sat in my car and I opened my laptop. Mr. Whitmore had given me access to the estate documents. I spent the next 3 hours reading every single page. Mrs. Henrietta Dubois had been incredibly wealthy, yes, but she'd also been incredibly smart. The estate included several properties: a brownstone in Brooklyn that was rented out, a condo in Miami Beach, and a commercial property in Atlanta, right in the West End, a property that was currently being leased by a small chain of soul food restaurants, a property that was 2 blocks from my mother's house. My mind started working. The pieces were falling into place. Keisha and Marcus had been talking for months about opening their own restaurant. Keisha had gone to culinary school before dropping out. Marcus fancied himself a businessman, though he'd never actually succeeded at any business he'd started. They'd been looking for investors, looking for a space, looking for their big break. I smiled. It was not a nice smile. I picked up my phone and I sent a text to Keisha. "Hey, I know things were weird at dinner. I'm sorry. I figured out the rent situation. But I heard something you might be interested in. Can we meet for coffee tomorrow?" She responded within minutes. "What is it?" "Business opportunity," I typed. "Trust me. You're going to want to hear this." "Fine. Starbucks on Peachtree, 10 a.m. Perfect." I spent the rest of the night planning, thinking, preparing. The test was over. They had failed. Now came the reckoning. The next morning, I got to Starbucks early. I was wearing the same professional outfit from the lawyer's office. I looked tired, desperate, exactly how I wanted to look. Keisha showed up at 10:15, because of course she did. She was always late. She was wearing workout clothes, designer Lululemon, and carrying a green smoothie. "This better be good, Talia," she said, sliding into the chair across from me. "I have Pilates at 11. "It is," I said. I slid a folder across to her. "I found out about a commercial property that's about to go on the market. West End. Perfect location for a restaurant. The current tenant's lease is up in 60 days. Her eyes lit up. "Wait, seriously? Where did you hear about this?" "I have a friend who works in property management," I lied smoothly. She gave me the inside scoop. The owner wants to sell fast. They're motivated. Keisha grabbed the folder, flipping through the documents I'd carefully prepared. Real documents, real photos, real numbers. All true. Just missing one key detail. "This is perfect," she breathed. "This is exactly what Marcus and I have been looking for. What's the asking price?" I had researched comparable properties. The building was worth about $2.8 million. "They want $1.2 million, I said. "It's undervalued because they want a quick sale. Cash deal, no inspection, as is." Her eyes went wide. 1.2? That's actually doable. Marcus's parents said they'd invest. We could probably pull together $800,000. We'd need a loan for the rest, but "There's a catch," I said, letting my voice sound reluctant. "What?" "They want to meet with potential buyers this week, Thursday at 2. But they want proof of funds. You'd need to show that you have serious backing before they'll even consider your offer." Keisha's expression hardened. "We can do that. Marcus's parents are wealthy. They can provide bank statements." "Good," I said, "because there are 3 other buyers interested. You'll need to move fast." She stood up, grabbing the folder. "I need to call Marcus. This is huge, Talia. Thank you for thinking of us." She was halfway to the door when she turned back. "Oh, and the rent thing. You figured it out?" "Yeah," I said quietly. "I figured it out." She smiled, that patronizing smile that said "I told you so." "Good. See? You always land on your feet." She left. I sat there, sipping my coffee, watching her through the window as she got in her Range Rover, already on the phone, gesturing excitedly. The hook was set. Now I just had to reel her in. Over the next few days, I played my part perfectly. I had Mr. Whitmore's firm create a fake shell company, Motivated Seller LLC. I had them draw up real-looking documents. I even hired an actor through a website to play the property manager who would meet with Keisha and Marcus. But the real genius was this. The property was real. It was really for sale. It really was worth $2.8 million. I really was the owner. And I really was about to sell it to them. For exactly the price I quoted. $1.2 million, 40% under value. A deal they couldn't refuse. But there was one small clause buried in the sales contract, on page 47, in dense legal language. A clause that said if the buyers defaulted on any payment or violated any terms of the agreement within the first 12 months, ownership would revert back to the seller, and all money paid would be forfeited as liquidated damages. It was aggressive. It was probably barely legal. But Mr. Whitmore assured me it would hold up if I was careful. "You're playing a dangerous game, Miss Jenkins," he'd said, "but I admire your creativity." Thursday came. The meeting was set for 2 p.m. at a neutral office space I'd rented for the day. Professional, legitimate looking. I wasn't going to be there. I was going to be the mysterious silent partner, the one who had given Keisha the tip, the one who was just trying to help family. I watched from a coffee shop across the street as Keisha and Marcus arrived. They were dressed up, trying to look like serious business people. They met with the actor, with Mr. Whitmore's associate playing the seller's attorney. I'd given them instructions. Be encouraging but not too eager. Let Keisha and Marcus feel like they're winning. 2 hours later, my phone buzzed. Text from Keisha. "We got it. We're buying the property. Closing in 3 weeks. Thank you so much, Talia. I'm sorry I was harsh about the rent thing. You really came through for us." I stared at the text. She was thanking me. Actually thanking me. Because she thought she'd just gotten the deal of a lifetime. She thought she'd beaten me to the punch. What she didn't know was that I'd structured the deal very specifically. They'd put down $200,000 as a non-refundable deposit. They'd gotten a loan from Marcus's parents for another $600,000. And they were financing the final $400,000 through a private lender that I controlled through another shell company. The interest rate was high, 22%. But they'd been so excited about the deal, so sure they were getting a steal, that they'd signed everything without reading the fine print. The closing happened 3 weeks later. I wasn't there. I was represented by Mr. Whitmore. But I watched from afar as Keisha and Marcus got the keys to their dream property. They posted about it on social media. Big smiles, champagne toasts, new business owners, dreams coming true. Blessed, more restaurant life, black excellence. The comments poured in. Congratulations from friends and family. My mother commented, "So proud of you, baby girl." Robert commented, "Knew you could do it." Nobody mentioned me. Nobody thanked the poor sister who'd given them the tip. I didn't care. The trap was set. Now I just had to wait. 3 months passed. In that time, I did nothing. I stayed in my studio apartment. I kept working my jobs. I lived like I'd always lived. Poor, struggling, invisible. But I was watching. I had people watching. Keisha and Marcus had big plans for the property. They were going to gut it, renovate it, turn it into an upscale fusion restaurant. They hired contractors. They maxed out credit cards. They threw money at the project like they had an unlimited supply. But restaurants are expensive. Renovations always cost more than you think. And they'd underestimated. Badly. I started hearing things through the family grapevine. Keisha had asked my mother for money. $20,000 to cover contractor overruns. My mother had given it to her. Pulled it from her retirement account. Marcus's parents had given them another $50,000. They were bleeding money. And the worst part? They hadn't even opened yet. Permits were delayed. The contractors found asbestos. The HVAC system needed to be completely replaced. It was a disaster. And then came the first payment on the private loan. $400,000 at 22% interest meant monthly payments of over $7,000. The payment was due on the 15th of the month. On the 16th, I got the notification. Payment missed. I waited one more day. On the 17th, I had Mr. Whitmore send the official notice. Default on loan agreement. Per the terms outlined in Section 12, Clause 4, failure to make payment within 3 business days will result in immediate foreclosure proceedings and activation of the reversion clause. I could picture Keisha's face when she got that letter. The panic, the confusion, the realization that she'd been set up. My phone rang that night. It was 11 p.m. Keisha. I let it ring 4 times before answering. "Hello," I said, my voice groggy like she'd woken me up. "Talia, what the hell is this?" Her voice was shrill, panicked. "What is what?" "This letter, this foreclosure notice. It says we're in default and they're taking the property back." "What? Slow down. What are you talking about?" "The restaurant property. The one you told us about. We missed one payment, and now they're saying they're taking it back. All of it. The building, the money, everything." I sat up in bed, rubbing my eyes. Academy Award performance. "Keisha, I don't understand. I just told you about the property. I don't know anything about the financing or the contracts. Did you read the paperwork?" "Of course we read it." But her voice faltered. She hadn't. I knew she hadn't. "Well, if it's in the contract, there's nothing I can do," I said slowly. "Maybe you should call a lawyer?" "We can't afford a lawyer, Talia. We've put everything into this place. Everything. Mom's retirement money, Marcus's parents' savings. We're ruined." There it was, the desperation. The same desperation I'd felt when I'd asked them for $3,000. "I'm sorry, Keisha, I really am. But I don't know what you want me to do. You could help us. You could loan us the money to make the payment. It's only $7,000. You helped Mom with her car. You can help us with this. $7,000. More than double what I'd asked for. And she wanted it immediately. No apology for how she'd treated me. No acknowledgement of her cruelty. Just demands. Keisha, I don't have $7,000, I said quietly. I'm barely making rent. Then figure it out, she screamed. This is your fault. You're the one who told us about this place. You have to fix it. She hung up. I sat there in the dark, my phone in my hand. My fault. Everything was always my fault. The next day, Mr. Whitmore sent the formal foreclosure notice. Per the terms of the contract, Keisha and Marcus had 72 hours to vacate the property. All funds paid were forfeited. The property reverted to the original owner. Me. I waited for the fallout. It came fast. Keisha called my mother. My mother called me. Talia Marie Jenkins, what is going on? Her voice was sharp, angry. Keisha is hysterical. She says she's losing the restaurant because of you. Because of me? I said, genuine confusion in my voice. Mama, I just told her about a property that was for sale. I didn't force her to buy it. I didn't make her sign anything. She says there's some kind of clause in the contract, something about defaulting. I wouldn't know anything about that, I said. I'm not a lawyer. Did she read the contract before she signed? Silence. Mama, I'm sorry they're having trouble. I really am. But this isn't my fault. They're adults. They made a business decision. She needs money, Talia. $7,000. Robert and I already gave her our retirement savings. We have nothing left. The irony was almost too much. I don't have $7,000, Mama. Then get it. Take out a loan. Ask your boss. Do something. This is your sister. This is family. Family. That word again. Mama, 3 months ago I asked for $3,000 to keep from being evicted. And Keisha laughed in my face. You told me to handle my own business. This is different. How? I asked, my voice going cold. How is this different? Because Keisha is about to lose everything. She's pregnant, Talia. She's going to have a baby. She needs help. And I was about to be homeless, I said quietly. But that didn't matter, did it? My mother's voice turned ice cold. You've always been jealous of your sister. Always. Ever since you were little. You couldn't stand that she was successful, that she had a husband, that she was doing better than you. And now you've sabotaged her. You did this on purpose. The accusation hung in the air. Goodbye, Mama, I said, and I hung up. I turned off my phone. I sat in my studio apartment, in the space I'd deliberately kept, the place I still lived despite having $52 million in the bank. And I felt nothing. No guilt. No sadness. Just cold, clear certainty. The foreclosure went through. Keisha and Marcus lost the property. They lost their $200,000 deposit. They lost the $600,000 from Marcus's parents. They lost my mother's $20,000. They lost their dreams. The property reverted to me. I owned it, free and clear. And I had another $800,000 in the bank from their defaulted loan and forfeited payments. I waited 2 more weeks. Let them stew. Let them panic. Let them scramble. Then I made my move. I called a family meeting. Through Mr. Whitmore, I sent formal invitations to my mother, Robert, Keisha, and Marcus. The invitation was professional, printed on heavy cardstock. It requested their presence at a meeting regarding the estate of Henrietta Dubois and related properties. The meeting was set for Saturday at 10 a.m. at Mr. Whitmore's office, the fancy one in Buckhead. I arrived early. I was wearing a different outfit this time, a custom-tailored charcoal suit that cost more than 3 months of my old rent. My hair was professionally done. My makeup was perfect. I looked like I belonged in that building. Because I did. Mr. Whitmore greeted me in the lobby. Are you ready for this, Miss Jenkins? I've been ready my whole life, I said. They arrived together. My mother, Robert, Keisha, and Marcus. They looked confused, scared. They were shown to the conference room, the same one where I'd learned about my inheritance. But this time, I was already sitting at the head of the table. They stopped when they saw me, genuine confusion on their faces. Talia, my mother said, what are you doing here? Please sit down, I said, gesturing to the chairs across from me. They sat slowly, looking at each other, looking at Mr. Whitmore, looking at me. I don't understand, Keisha said. Her eyes were red. She'd been crying. What is this? Why are we here? I folded my hands on the table. You're here because we need to discuss the property at West End, the one you just lost. Marcus's face went red. If this is some kind of joke. It's not a joke, I said calmly. Mr. Whitmore, if you would. Mr. Whitmore slid a document across the table. It was the deed to the property. Clear title. Owner, Talia M. Jenkins. Keisha picked it up. Read it. Her face went white. You owned the property? I own the property. I corrected. I am the property. I was the seller. I structured the deal. I wrote the contract. I set the trap. Silence. Absolute, total silence. You set us up? Marcus finally said, his voice barely a whisper. No, I said, leaning back in my chair. I gave you an incredible opportunity. A property worth $2.8 million for only $1.2 million. 40% under market value. I handed you a golden ticket. With a poison pill buried in the contract. Keisha spat. With terms that you agreed to, I said coldly. Terms that were spelled out clearly in the purchase agreement. Terms that any competent person would have read before signing. Terms that any business owner should have understood. We didn't have a lawyer look at it, Marcus said weakly. We trusted you, Keisha said, her voice breaking. You're my sister. And you laughed in my face when I asked for $3,000 to keep from being evicted, I said. My voice was steady, cold. You told me I needed to stand on my own 2 feet. You told me I was irresponsible. You told me to handle my business. I looked at my mother. You told me I was dramatic. You told me I was jealous. You gave Keisha $20,000 from your retirement fund, but you couldn't spare $3,000 to help me. I looked at Marcus. You told me I should have gone to college, should have made better choices. I stood up. So I did. I made a choice. I chose to test you. I chose to see if any of you actually cared about me, or if I was just the family ATM. Test us. My mother's voice was shaking. You destroyed your sister's life to test us? I gave her the same chance she gave me, I said. None. Mr. Whitmore slid another document across the table. This one was longer, more complex. This is the settlement offer, he said in his professional voice. Miss Jenkins is prepared to return the West End property to Mr. and Mrs. Marcus Henderson under the following conditions. Keisha grabbed the document. Her hands were shaking. First, Mr. Gia. Whitmore continued. You will repay Miss Jenkins the sum of $800,000. This represents the loan default, forfeited deposits, and legal fees. The repayment terms are interest-free, but the full amount must be paid within 5 years. Marcus's face went gray. We don't have that kind of money. Second, Mr. Whitmore continued, ignoring him. You will sign a formal acknowledgement that Miss Jenkins acted legally and ethically in the transaction, and you waive any right to sue for fraud, misrepresentation, or emotional distress. Third, you will issue a formal apology to Miss Jenkins, in writing, acknowledging how you treated her when she asked for help, and acknowledging that your treatment was wrong. The room was silent. And fourth, I said, speaking for the first time. My voice was quiet, but it filled the space. You will never, ever ask me for money again. Not for emergencies, not for investments, not for anything. You will not contact me unless I contact you first. I looked at each of them. Those are my terms. You have 72 hours to decide. Accept them, and you get your restaurant back. Reject them, and I sell the property to the highest bidder, and you lose everything. Talia, my mother whispered. Please, please, I repeated. Please, that's what I said to you. Please help me. Please don't let me be homeless. And you told me to handle my business. I picked up my bag. Now I'm telling you the same thing. Handle your business. You have 72 hours. I walked to the door. Wait, Keisha said, her voice small. Where did you get the money for this? Where did $52 million come from? I stopped. I turned around. And I smiled. A real, genuine smile. I inherited it, I said. From a great aunt I never met. Henrietta Dubois. My father's aunt. The family you all told me didn't matter. The family that abandoned us. I let that sink in. She left everything to me. Not to Mom. Not to you. To me. Because I'm the only one with his blood. I walked out. Behind me I heard Keisha start to sob. I didn't look back. 3 days later they signed the settlement. All of them. The written apology was 2 pages long. It listed every time they'd failed me, every time they'd taken advantage, every time they'd made me feel small. Keisha signed it crying. My mother signed it with shaking hands. Marcus signed it looking like he wanted to die. And Robert, for the first time in my life, apologized to me. I'm sorry I never treated you like you mattered, he said, his voice hoarse. I'm sorry I made you feel like you didn't belong. I accepted their apologies. I gave them back the property. I set up the repayment plan, interest-free like I'd promised. But I didn't forgive them. Forgiveness wasn't part of the deal. A week after the settlement was finalized, I went back to see Mr. Raymond. I knocked on his door. He opened it, and his face lit up when he saw me. Talia, come in, come in. I haven't seen you in weeks. How are you doing? I walked in and sat on his familiar couch. I'm good, Mr. Raymond. Really good. You look different, he said, studying me. You look lighter, like something's been lifted. Something has, I said. I reached into my bag and pulled out an envelope. A thick one. I handed it to him. What's this? He asked. Open it, I said. He opened the envelope. Inside was a check. For $50,000. He stared at it, looked at me, looked at the check. Talia, what is this? It's for you, I said. For the car you need to fix. For the roof repairs you've been putting off. For whatever you need. I can't take this, he said, trying to hand it back. Yes, you can, I said firmly. Because 3 months ago, when everyone else turned their backs on me, you offered me everything you had. You offered me $3,200. Your entire savings. His eyes filled with tears. You didn't take it, he whispered. I didn't need it, I said. I had just inherited $52 million. His jaw dropped. 52 million, I confirmed. From my father's aunt. But I needed to know if my family would help me if they thought I had nothing. And they didn't. But you did. You always did. I leaned forward. You're my real family, Mr. Raymond. You've been there for me my whole life. You saw me when nobody else did. And I want to take care of you the way you've always taken care of me. He started crying. Real, heavy tears. I don't know what to say. Say you'll accept the money, I said gently. And say you'll accept one more thing. I pulled out another document. I'm setting up a foundation. The Henrietta Dubois Foundation for Forgotten Children. It's going to help kids who've been overlooked, underestimated, and undervalued by their families. Kids who need a chance. I showed him the paperwork. I want you to be on the board of directors. Help me decide who gets scholarships, who gets support, who gets seen. He looked at me, his old weathered face full of wonder. You're going to do something special, Talia. Just like your daddy said. I already am, I said. 6 months later, the foundation was up and running. We'd given out 15 scholarships. We'd helped 23 young people pay for college, trade school, or start their own businesses. The West End property? Keisha and Marcus reopened it. They're making their payments, slowly but surely. The restaurant is doing okay. Not great, but okay. We don't talk. They send the checks on time. That's all I need. My mother sent me a birthday card last month. Inside, she'd written, I'm proud of you. I'm sorry it took me so long to see you. I didn't respond. Maybe someday I will, but not yet. Robert sent me a Facebook friend request. I didn't accept it. I kept living in my studio apartment for another 3 months. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to remember what it felt like to struggle. Remember why I did what I did. Then I bought a house. Nothing crazy. A nice 3-bedroom in Decatur. Quiet neighborhood. Good schools nearby for when I'm ready to think about kids. And I set up a guest room. For Mr. Raymond. For when he wants to visit. Or for when he needs help. Or for when he just wants family. Because that's what family does. Real family. Not the blood kind. But the kind that shows up. The kind that sees you. The kind that offers you everything when you have nothing. I tested my family. They failed. But in failing, they gave me something I'd never had before. Clarity, freedom, and the chance to build something real. My name is Talia Jenkins. I'm 32 years old. I inherited $52 million. And I used it to find out who my real family was. The answer surprised me, but it didn't break me. It freed me. And that's worth more than all the money in the world. If you've ever been underestimated by your family, if you've ever been the one who gives and never receives, leave a comment below. Tell me your story. You're not alone. And remember, blood doesn't make family. Loyalty does. Before you go, hit that subscribe button. Because next week, I'm going to tell you about the time I met Henrietta Dubois' lawyer and found out the real reason she left me everything. You won't believe what he told me. Trust me, this is just the beginning. See you next time.